I'm going to have her give a little bit of background on that, and then we'll dive into the panel.
Okay, this is working. Hi, yes, so as Libby said, wow, I have such a loud voice. It's hard for me to mic it real quick. I'm Caitlin. I am the founder of the Sunrise Coalition, and this panel is kind of like my brain coming to life, so I'm really, really excited. Where's Chris Collins? Do you remember 100 years ago, and this is a like memory until right now, where we sat in your office and like played with different circles on how the 8 pillars of health, like which different way. This is a long time coming of like everything that I love, and I think everything that we've wanted Health Chats to ever be is health is so much bigger than I think what we typically are used to. Whether it's we talk a lot about physical health, emotional health, mental health is making its way into the discussion as it should, but there are 8 people up here because if you are deep into the health circles, you will learn that there are actually some say 7, some say 8, but 8 pillars of health. And the way that they all interact with each other, I've sat and tried to find like what is the core pinnacle of that. And I think that anyone can argue honestly any different one of them. I have my personal opinions on that. I'm not going to share them right now. But if someone asks me later, I'll let you know. It's a little teaser. But it's, so again, the idea of Health Chats and what Libby was already doing, I came into the back end of something beautiful that Libby's creating. I'm not going to take any credit for this, but except for I was like, let's do the 8 pillars of health. So that tonight I will take credit for it. Everything else has always been Libby. But it really is just how do we explore the different modalities of health and how each one of them play into our essence of health. I'm trying really hard not to get so boxy. My friend Lauren at the end was supposed to hit me when I talk too much, and then she picked the other end, guys. So all I'm going to say about that is I think in this world of, right, we all like almost laugh now, like my side of the internet, or algorithms, or even here, as we all niche ourselves down into, I'm doing social health, and you're doing dietitian, and like emotional, we're all even this niching. We are very multidimensional beings, and when we make ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller into an idea or a concept that is digestible to other people, we end up losing a lot of who we actually are. And the goal for tonight is for us to see that all parts of this matter, and maybe even to open our eyes to the spaces in life that we don't see it. That Sunrise works specifically with a lot of people that fall through the gaps of, I would say, we're between like where Medicaid steps in and healthcare steps in, which is most people. And I'm so excited that we have Corey here talking financial health, because being poor makes you sick at a cellular level. And there's probably very few people in this room that are ready to have that conversation. But when we get to talk about the fact that we do have access to care that a lot of people do, I think that again really opens our eyes to how much our situations do impact our health. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation with all of you tonight. And thank all of y'all for being here, because again, this is my dream coming to life. So Libby, thank you for building something. Happy 1-year anniversary. And thank you for letting me be my friend.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here and doing all this. So I'm going to kind of start off leading this with allowing everybody to introduce themselves. So you get to know each of the panelists, what their background is, who they are, and kind of what they do, and that'll set the tone for kind of where everybody's at. So I'll start with this end.
Hello again. I kind of said what I am, or who I am, what we do, but just to circle back again, we work with the nervous system, the body, and with all of that is so connected, and I will just touch on the pillar that I was nominated to talk on, but with emotional health, it all starts with where you're at within yourself, and where you're at within yourself is, you know, your physical, there's physical components and energetic components, and all of that's connected, and so, yeah, I feel like I already said my spiel on who I am, but yeah.
We'll get into it later. Awesome.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm Kate Caldwell. I'm here to talk about the spiritual aspects of health. I'm coming to this from a background as a clinically trained healthcare chaplain and trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator. So looking at how we can take a body-based and very kind of concrete approach to spiritual care and wellness. And I'd say the words that I bring to my practice are empower and equip. So it can be a lot to say, I'm responsible for my health. And that can take, we live in a system where we're conditioned in certain ways to maybe give away that power or locate power outside of ourselves. So it's like how to relocate that inwardly, and how our bodies have this nerd word called interoception of how to get a felt sense of how we make choices, and then making more space, and maybe even from a non-pathological lens, and more of like suffering is a natural part of human being, and how do we normalize it, support it, and accompany, so that it's really helping people through awareness practices. So Awareness Arts Collective is my practice, and really standing between like bridging wisdom traditions with medical model, and how those two things can come together in our day and time, I think is something that a lot of people are wanting to see how that can happen. So thank you all for being here.
Hi everybody, I am Jenna Parker, and I am the owner of Waves Wellness and Counseling Services. And this is a psychotherapy and ecotherapy practice. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been practicing as a clinical social worker for a decade, and I've had the honor of doing that here in the US as well as in Ghana, West Africa. And so I've had lots of really cool experiences in working in different environments and really trying to bring merging traditional psychotherapy modalities with the ancient human wisdom and our relationship with the natural world. My pillar of health is environment, and one of the really cool things that I do is people that I work with, we break out of the office space and I see all of my folks in an outdoor setting under an open sky, whether we're in the garden or on the trails, but we are deepening our relationship with the natural world of our bodies and the world all around us.
Awesome. Well, again, I am Dr. Libby Schwartz, officially. I have my physical therapy practice, but my pillar is the physical, right? So movement mantra is my company, and movement has always been something that is incredibly important to me in so many different ways. And for me, movement has meant so much more than just the physical, which is why it's so cool to like have all these components, because it really is integrated into everything that I do. But that's kind of who I am and what I do. I do a lot of different things, but basically you can catch me running, lifting, doing yoga, dancing, anything movement based. And we'll go more into kind of the physical pillar in a little bit. Oh,
Hi, my name is Laura Eldridge. I'm a registered dietitian. I currently kind of have two roles. I serve as a performance dietitian for Boyd Buchanan High School, where I work with athletes, coaches, and families to help educate and improve nutrition choices and just availability. I also teach a nutrition class there, and then I also am the dietitian with Be Strong Health and Fitness down the street. I got Be Strong people back there. We do individual training, and then I work with them on dietary recommendations, basically nutrition coaching. So I'm the nutrition pillar.
Hey, I'm Corey Gaylord. I'm blessed to lead strategic financial partners here locally. We do financial planning. Of course, that was correct. We do financial planning for individuals, business owners across the board. I'm really excited to talk tonight just on the financial side of stress and emotion and all of that, and how it all plays in. So, hope we help.
I know a lot of people here, and then I know a lot of new faces are here as well. But I've played a lot of different roles in the community at this point. But I am the pillar of intelligence, and basically I have done some work with the public health spectrum as a nutrition educator. And I've also seen that that is probably the number one thing that we need in the community, is to educate everyone on health and wellness, and so that's why I'm here.
I'm Caitlin, y'all met me slightly already.
I am talking about the pillar of social health, and so I will just, my qualifications are that my tagline is I am a connector of dots and people. My brain is like that Spider-Man meme where they're like, or the guy who knows crazy, and that's my brain 24/7. So I love connecting people. I love making things that seem really far apart come together. And again, I've kind of already talked on that, but this is a dream. If you didn't, do we have like the pillars up where everyone can actually see what they are?
No, I don't
No.
actually on
Okay.
this slide. Sorry.
But I'm just gonna really quickly say them if you missed them. That was whispered that would be helpful. So we're gonna start then. We have emotional health, we have spiritual health, we have environmental health, we have physical health, nutritional health, financial health, intellectual health, and social health. And all of those together play different roles in each person's life in this room on the level of health and your health and well-being and where you're at on any given day. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities there for your health to fluctuate and figure it out. That's normal. That's okay. And there might be a part of this where you're like not connected to tonight. That's fine. And maybe there's something tonight where you learn something new and you start trying to tap into that as well. So I invite you all to really be a part of this and explore what it means for yourself and where you're at, whichever pillar finds you.
Amazing. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper into this pillar. So I want everybody to kind of speak a little bit to maybe what and why the pillar of health that you kind of represent. And many of these pillars intertwine. So I think that that is another component. We're going to kind of get into that because we can look at all of these kind of pillars as separate things when in reality it's all kind of mixed together in a big swirling pot. And so it can be helpful to kind of boil it down into these components. So I want everybody to kind of give a little bit about how and where, maybe what they do, and where their pillar is important in that bigger picture. And then, just so we can know the difference, is then I'm going to ask everybody to basically say how can we all work together. So we'll go through first kind of like individuals, and then we'll connect the dots.
Libby, what was that last part?
We'll connect the dots in a second. Yes.
So you just want us to get into like the
Just
importance of,
for one pillar first, and then we'll connect the dots. Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious emotional health is important. Whatever mood you're in is kind of how you see the world that day. I have a good little, meter of where I'm at every day. If I'm driving and someone cuts me off, and I'm like, oh, that was close. Versus, what the heck? I start, that's a good sense of like, oh, cool, that's where I'm at today. And that kind of leads me to the point that I want to make with regarding emotional health. There's no good, bad, right, or wrong emotion to feel. What is important is to create space to allow those emotions to be witnessed. And I think that's the part where people get in trouble and people get stuck is we're either doing one of two things most of the time. We're either craving a really good feeling. We want to look for that feeling. We got to find that feeling, make sure I get that good feeling. Or we're resisting a bad feeling. And so we're living our life in fear of these good or bad emotions. And so what I have found, and again, working with people's systems, learning what I've learned about the body and about energy, it's really about creating space for the emotions to have. Every emotion is a sacred emotion. Being a human is a sacred experience. And so being a human comes with emotions. And so, again, I think the most important thing regarding emotional health, and someone could take this and like, oh, gotta be positive, always feel good, always feel joy. What happens if something happens in your life that the first emotion is not, heck yes, I'm pumped. It's like, you never practice feeling, grief or sadness or all those different things. And again, working with the body, what we've found is when you don't address those things, your body holds on to it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the body keeps score. You may go through a traumatic experience, crazy emotions that maybe you didn't have the tools at the time to process. Your body's like, oh, I'm gonna push that down because I can't process that right now. Or it's very high emotion, but the experience passes, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's over. But how was your body during that time? Did you create that space for it? So, one, I just want to acknowledge the importance of creating space to feel that, and that can look like different things. I think it starts with awareness, letting yourself have an emotion, and that for some people is very foreign. Maybe you're in an environment growing up that you didn't have space for that, you weren't allowed to feel that. Stop crying, don't be mad, like put a smile on your face, you gotta be happy, whatever that was. And so maybe you see the consequences of that as you grow older, and like, man, I never really looked at that. So I think one, it starts with the awareness and just giving yourself that space of, again, we work with a lot of people in here, and it's not like we help people feel better, right? That's like really what it's deduced to, but it doesn't mean that I don't have hard days. But when I do have a hard day, I've learned how to let myself have that so that I process it in real time so it doesn't become an issue down the road. So one, creating that awareness and that presence, letting yourself feel the feels, whatever that looks like for you. And two, maybe you find yourself stuck in your feels, stuck in a lower, frequency, I guess, if you will. We talk a lot about energy in here, so just bear with me if you can. But each emotion has a certain frequency. You can imagine joy is like very high, like feeling really, really good. Or maybe you're stuck in a lower frequency, feeling sad, like deep sadness. One, again, creating the space to allow yourself to feel it, but two, maybe you find yourself there for quite some time. If you find yourself feeling stuck in your, let's say, a lower emotion, I almost did a printout of this, but ask me later or Google this. It's called the Emotional Guidance Scale, and it basically has this list of your emotions, and each emotion has a certain frequency. And the goal isn't to go from depression to ecstasy, but maybe depression to anger, and then anger to, contentment, basically. Where the goal then becomes, okay, and again, this is when you're feeling really stuck. Feel the feels, create space for it, and then whenever you can, make these small shifts of and maybe you just hang out at anger, but the key is to be really real with that. So again, creating the space, having the awareness, and two, making the next point, if you feel stuck in a lower, more difficult emotion, can you shift a little bit? Those little tiny shifts, and the shift can be like calling a friend or talking to someone that you haven't talked to in a while, or just breaking the pattern of whatever pattern you may be stuck in emotionally, or listening to different kind of music, doing a different activity. That's how you can break out of that, if you will. But again, we just talked a lot about shifts, and if you're in a certain, again, lower emotion for a long period of time, it makes it even harder to make those shifts. So just like bite-sized chunks, basically, is a good way to keep moving. But all that to say, there's no bad emotion. Honor your emotions. Let them come up. Feel it. Feel disappointment. You worked really hard on something and it didn't go the way you wanted. Yeah, that's gonna suck. Create space for that. That's okay. Versus and push it down, basically, right? Create that space. We're all human. And then you doing that gives someone permission next to you to be like, oh, that's okay for me to feel that too. But yeah, it's my emotion.
I know, yeah, no. It's really cool that we're sitting next to each other. We totally didn't plan it that way, but the spiritual and emotional can go together. So spiritual is a very big word. It's so some key points, just some anchor points for that in terms of our discussion tonight. Maybe you can be thinking of how you create your identity in terms of your spirituality. So maybe how you create your identity, maybe how you find meaning and purpose in the world, perhaps how you experience connection. So sometimes we think of, I've done groups where we make a Venn diagram and I just ask the people, so for this room, the Venn diagram would be its very own specific thing, to have spirituality in a circle over here and religion in a circle over here. And for some people, those Venn diagram circles are very overlapping. For some people, they're a little overlapping. And for some people, those circles are totally separate. So those are just like points of orientation that I think it's helpful to mention as we're talking about spirituality. And in terms of spiritual health, I can look to Lauren over here and just say, yes, yes, yes. Like one of the reasons that I take a body-based approach is how do we create enough safety in ourselves to experience the breadth of emotion. And so it's like our capacity for one is capacity for the other. So capacity for joy is capacity for pain. And I want to say too, from a spiritual standpoint,
we always need help. We're wired for help. We have to have help. We're mirroring to each other all of the time, and I think that connection piece is a really important thread, perhaps, of all of us here, and we're, specific representations of huge concepts. So just to name that, there's so many ways to approach any of these concepts. So my approach is very through the human body and a very concrete kind of pragmatic approach, and this is a part of human health from a more simple way, perhaps. Anything else that I want to share about just the orienting to the concept? I think that's it for now. Thank you all for listening.
Awesome. I honestly think that we could all be sitting next to one another. And I also giggle because we were all in a part of the panel in January. We're sitting in a different order, but we were. Yeah, so it's an honor to sit next to y'all again. The environment. And so there are kind of a few different ways that I think about this and I look at this, but as a social worker by training, one of the foundational pieces of how we approach healing is understanding that people exist within their environments. And so we are very deeply impacted. Our wellness is very deeply impacted by all of the environments, all of the systems that we're a part of. Our communities, our families, our social systems, our spiritual systems, our professional systems, our financial systems, right? So if we think about in the different environments that we're a part of, there's an exchange there, right? And so if one of our environments is ailing or dysfunctioning in one way or another, that is going to impact our wellness. And of course, one of those systems that we all are a part of is the Earth system, right? We are all here, we all call this beautiful green Earth our home. And so much of the work that I do focuses on how humans are nature, right? We have our own nature, which is our earth bodies that we get to call home and exist within. We have the nature of our connections, of our emotions, of the bigger, broader natural systems that we're a part of. And so a lot of what informs ecotherapy, which is so much of what I do, is that when the earth is suffering, humans will suffer as well. And as all of us know acutely, our earth is not doing very well right now, and there's a lot of evidence of that happening around the world. And so being able to be in deep reciprocal relationship with the natural world, rather than viewing the earth as a commodity or a resource or something that we can take from, that allows for there to be a lot of healing happening in that system and in the exchange that is happening between we humans and our non-human brothers and sisters all around us. And so being able to be in relationship and to care for and tend to our earth and prioritize the wellness of our earth, we're also tending to our own wellness and the wellness of our communities, the wellness of the people around us, and yeah, so I think that's what I've got for now.
Yes, oh my gosh, I love this. This is so great. Well, I am physical health, which is probably the one pillar of health that most people initially think of. Maybe either this or nutrition, I think, are probably the two that people initially think, oh, health, yes. Working out, eating healthy, yes, those are the things. So from a physical standpoint, we live in this body right now, right? And we need to be able to have physical health, and that allows us to move through this world. And it is so connected. I was just kind of thinking, okay, connecting all of the dots, how your physical body is so important, and how it relates to all these other pillars. But when we think about physical health, we need to think about, I think something I talk about a lot with my clients, is that it doesn't necessarily look like just one thing. Yes, we have markers of we want more muscle mass, we want a higher VO2 max, and those are all associated with longevity, and there are specific things that we can aim for. But everybody is starting at a different base point. So a lot of times people will come in and they'll say, oh, like, I know I should be doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, maybe, but where are you right now? What are you doing right now? If you're starting from zero, then that's gonna look very different from somebody who maybe has already been an elite athlete all their life, and is looking to kind of re-enter an athletic world. But I also talk a lot about strength and the kind of physical from a very functional standpoint. Because people will say, you'll see all sorts of different things on the internet, including lots of fake news about deadlifts being terrible for your back, or squatting is gonna blow out your knees, or running is gonna destroy your joints. And I don't ever want to discount people's pain when they do experience pain with those movement patterns, but those movement patterns are exactly that. They're patterns, and those are represented in functional ways that we move through our world. So if you're picking up your Amazon boxes from the floor, if you're sitting on the toilet, or if you have to catch the bus that's about to leave, all of these things are functional things that we're doing in our day. And so the physical health that we embody is not just to look good aesthetic-wise, which maybe we want that, and that's great, but it really is to help us move through this world better and connect with our people better, connect with our environment, and also, we're gonna go to this, but it helps to connect all of these pillars of health as well. So I think it's really important when we start to think about physical health that it's not necessarily just one thing, and it can be more important to kind of look at where you are now, what your goals are, and what your kind of deeper why is to have a better kind of sense of physical health for yourself. And so that's kind of where I'll leave it for now, and then we'll connect the dots as we go.
For nutrition, it's kind of, I don't want to say simple, but it's something you have to do every day. You have to eat. It's just part of your day. But it then comes into the choices that we make, and with the athletes, we talk about food being fuel, right? I know that you've all heard that before. And it is, it absolutely is, but it's also community. It's also celebration. It's also emotional, right? All of those things come into play with nutrition, and a lot of times when people hear the term nutrition, they think diet, they think I have to lose weight. There's a lot more to it than that, and there's a lot of relationship that goes into having a good relationship with nutrition. And that's what I like to do, is foster a healthy relationship with, yes, it is fuel, but it also has the opportunity to be a celebratory piece of cake or whatever it may be on your special day. So I don't want to say nutrition is the easiest, but nutrition is kind of the one that has to happen no matter what. Whereas the other pillars kind of all connect in a way that is sometimes more motivated by choice rather than internal drive. If that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of where it is.
I think it's been said a couple of times, but I think a big piece as I thought through it was the interconnectedness of everything within life, right? I think a quote that I love is how you do one thing is how you do all things. So you might be doing everything up here correctly and drop the ball in one area, and it's going to have a significant impact. Or to not look at it in a negative manner, if you're doing all of them well, it has that much more of a compounding effect. Of course, in the finance, I had to do that in there. That was not on purpose. But a couple of things that, kind of as I was reading for this and kind of thinking through it, it was very eye-opening to me, because obviously experientially sitting across the table, across the desk, whatever it may be, from people all day, every day, experientially I've learned a lot, but just wanted to kind of study and think through it a little bit. Over half of Americans say headaches are their top physical symptom of financial stress. 83% of Americans report financial stress. And then to yours, Caitlin, earlier, 19% of people have delayed medical or dental care this year because of money, and 23% have increased alcohol, tobacco, or comfort food use as a coping response to financial stress. So I think that just shows us, I don't think we have to look very far to see the financial issues in this country, but I think not just to look on the negative side, a lot of the people I sit down with that are doing all of the right things still don't have clarity, because they don't know, are the things I'm doing going to get the things I want? right? That's all financial planning is. It's figuring out, I'm here and I want to be there. What do I need to do, right? And so even folks that are doing all of the right things still have that same stress because, and generally I see that they're even more stressed because they care so much about doing it right. I think that's the biggest piece, and that's kind of been my word this year is clarity, because that's a lot of what people are missing, and I would argue it's across the board up here. I'll speak to the financial side because it's what I see every day. People don't really know exactly what they should be doing, and I would argue the more noise that keeps entering the world, i.e. AI, ChatGPT, Claude, internet, everything, is making it much worse in my opinion, because it gives you more information and new knowledge. It gives you action steps, and even if it does, you still want to sit across from a human and say, is that actually what I should do? And so I think that's a big piece of it, but I just wanted to hit on the interconnectedness, because the reality is, if you're doing everything up here well, but not taking care of your body, you're going to struggle. If you're, I can do that for all of them, but I think that's the biggest piece, is just how it all ties together, and then just having that clarity of, I'm doing the things I want to be doing to build the life I want to build, right? So I think those are my pieces.
Well done. I guess for my pillar, at first I was like, I don't know if I'm appropriate for this pillar, to be transparent. But then I realized, actually, I guess I've been studying neuroplasticity for about 2 decades, so I guess it's appropriate. Before I really start talking about the pillar of intelligence, I want everybody in the room, I'm going to play a little game with everyone. Okay, so everybody take a minute, clear your brain. Close your eyes, take a big deep breath. Keeping your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that front table when we were walking into this room. Do you see anything on that table that's blue?
That's blue?
That's blue, yeah. It has pink ears, and its nose is pointing up. How many people, by a show of hands, know what I'm talking about? A little bit of a cheat. Okay, go ahead and open your eyes. So I placed a little blue elephant on the table in front over here. And I put it there just as an opportunity for us to recognize how our brains are receiving the input while we're walking around our environment. So right there, that's something that is kind of out of place, that usually we may not pick up, but it's something that we could have paid attention to. So I want you to remember this little blue elephant. Just keep it in the back of your head, and I'll continue to talk. Okay, so basically the pillar of intelligence, let's think about what that means. In all elements of health, we look at all these different ways that we are trying to be healthy in general, and they all really do come to the core of knowledge, right? For us to be healthy by way of movement, we have to learn new movement patterns. For us to be healthy by way of nutrition, we have to learn how to eat appropriately, how to feed our bodies well, right? And these are not easy things to do. We're fighting against a lot of things that we've already learned. Think about it, however old you are now, let's just say 35 as an average age. 35 years, say none of you guys have ever learned anything about nutrition. You just have been eating mac and cheese your entire life, and that's it. And you love it, it's delicious, and that's all. You go to the doctor and the doctor says, you have X, Y, and Z going on with your health. And you go, oh, I don't know how that's possible. And they go, well, it's probably because you're eating mac and cheese every day and that's all you've eaten, right? And you're like, well, yeah, I love mac and cheese, why would I stop doing that? Now you have to go home, and you have some choices, right? You have the choice to go ahead and take whatever medication the doctor suggests you should take, and you keep eating mac and cheese for the rest of your life. Or you have the choice to go, hey, do I have control over whatever it is that I'm putting into my body? Maybe I do. But I'm gonna have to learn some stuff to be able to do it well. I'm gonna have to learn why mac and cheese isn't necessarily the best choice for me to put into my body every day. I'm gonna have to learn why emotionally I'm eating mac and cheese every single day. Is it because when I was a kid, that was the food that I ate every day and it makes me feel comfortable? We don't know. Spiritually too, we have to link that as well, because there's a lot of different correlations that we find that relate to why we move a certain way, why we eat a certain way, why we spend our money a certain way. They all come back to being able to understand and get the knowledge necessary to make these changes in our lives. So there are two aspects of this that I think are really important. And I'm a little nervous because I actually haven't spoken in public in a long time. I am now the grounds foreman and I do a lot of planting. I play with plants all day, so ignore my nervousness. But with that, so the first element that we're going to talk about is neuroplasticity. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this before, but neuroplasticity, if you haven't heard about it, is the concept that your brain has the capacity to change. So if you look at your brain, like there's a bunch of little highways in your brain, and those highways, you're driving down these highways, you know what I mean? And those are the signals telling your brain, like, go eat something, go move, go do this, go do that, right? Well, if you think about it, if every single day you get into your car, you drive to work, take the same route, you get to work, you eat your banana, you eat whatever it is that you eat, you do your job, you go to lunch, it's all exactly the same. Well, that road system is pretty entrenched. It's pretty systematic, right? Your brain is pretty much going to stay in that space. What we don't realize is we have the capacity to change those roadmaps. We have the ability to change the way that we see the world and how we interact with it and how we make these choices. And it's very simple things that we can do to make these neuroplastic changes. Simple things like take a different route to work, go on a 5-minute walk before you go to work, eat something different, meal prep. You know what I mean? Different, whatever it is, talk to somebody before you walk into the office. These little tiny changes are what keeps our brain changing and growing and expanding. So basically, the reason neuroplasticity is so important and why it's so cool that we're studying it right now is because it gives us the power. We have the choice. We have the power to make the changes for ourselves and our bodies that we want to. And sometimes we forget that we have that power. So then we go to the second element that I think is very important as well. So community education is the primary thing I think is should be the focus for health. We need to educate one another. That is this panel, perfect example of it. Your last podcast, beautiful example of that. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. But really though, for you to have the capacity to be good at your eating well and taking care of your body and moving well and making sure that you're making these healthy choices, you need that education. But we have to remember that we're starting from the ground up. So we have to look at it like we're kids in these fields, you know, and we have to educate ourselves slowly, because that education, not only is neuroplasticity going to give us that empowerment, but the education is what's empowering us as well. If you walk into the doctor's office and you know that it's the mac and cheese that's making you sick, you have the choice to say, you know what, actually I'm just going to change my diet. I don't need that medication. But if you walk in and you have no idea it's the mac and cheese, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Well, please give me whatever it is. You've lost all autonomy, right? We want that autonomy. We need that autonomy. Every single person in this room needs the power of choice. And education is the first step of giving you that power of choice. For you to have a financial system in your life that is going to support your future, you need that educational component of it. Because you will not make positive choices if you don't know how to do that. Anyway, so coming back to it. Who can tell me what is on the table when we were walking in? Elephant. What kind of elephant was it? Blue and with pink ears. Yes. How many people, raise your hand, actually remembered that?
Okay, awesome. So why I brought that as like a very simple, fun game is because this is something like, think about how kind of random and fun, because education should be fun, it should be play. The only way that we are gonna grow and learn something is if we enjoy it. Oh, the last element as well. The reason education is so foundational as well for people, specifically for nutrition, I was a WIC nutritionist, women, infants, and children, at the health department for a while. And what I learned is for adults to actually retain and make these positive choices for themselves and their children, what they needed was the why. Why? Why do I need to give my child vitamin D every day? Why is that important? Because it'll cause, if you don't, they'll get rickets. Their legs will bow out. That's pretty significant. That's a pretty easy thing to explain to them, but if I didn't explain that, that vitamin D is going to the bottom of the shopping list, and if they can't afford it, they're not going to get it. You know what I mean? So the why is also a big part of it as well. But anyways, that's just an example. The little blue elephant is just a fun example of something you can do to help change your brain every single day. These little games, cognitive games, chess, learning languages, things of that nature, that's all you've got to do. Writing with your opposite hand, I'm a lefty. Sometimes I write with my right hand. Brush your teeth with the opposite hand. These are the things that will slowly start to reroute those paths in your brain. Anyways, okay, sorry, that was much longer than it should, but I'm so sorry, guys.
One, I really love all things neuroplasticity, so I'm like, when you start doing that, I was like, that's wrong. Okay, so social health is anything from like your friends and your relationships on like small scale to, and I'm trying like, you know, we can repeat a lot. We had our community last month was our community panel, and like our community health to, you know, our state health big picture. It's just social, what does that look like and how does that play into all of these things? I haven't talked a ton about my work with Sunrise because I'm trying to like think about the entire room here, but I'm going to use the example that we talk about often with a mother. If a mother is unhealthy, it is going to directly correlate to the health of her child. Now, if she's healthy, that also has a direct correlation to the health of her child. What I think is really interesting as well is the health of the mother also determines the health and happiness of her partner, as well as how well her job and her place of work overall is performing. And when we don't take care of one person who has a large impact across the space, and there's a lot of research around this. You also, when you look at the countries that are the most financially stable and have the highest happiness ratings, they are the ones with the best maternal care. And that goes directly into this concept of who is around us, who is taking care of us, and what support systems do we have in place. And what does that look like in our lives socially, as far as like what are we putting into our friendships. And I love what you were talking about, like behavior change. And I was reading something yesterday, I think, and it talks about the hours you have to put into relationships for someone to become like an acquaintance to a close friend. And it's talking like, you know, 50 hours becomes a friend, 200 hours becomes a close friend. And that means somewhere between like the first hour of meeting someone to 200 hours takes time. It takes repetition. And when we are adults having our own lives and our own existence, you have to be really, really intentional about building those friendships. I'm going to call out my friend Tony for a minute because Tony's wife is one of my close friends. I feel like we've gotten close to our 200 hours at this point. But that came from a spot, so our kids play baseball together, and we looked at each other in the eye last summer and was like, we're probably about to spend the next 15 years together. What if we had a lot of fun doing it? And then we decided to intentionally become friends. And that means hanging out. That means saying, yeah, let's go have coffee, let's go on a walk, let's have a drink, let's work out. Let's get our kids together. Fun thing that me and Joanna like to say, our kids actually didn't like each other that much. but we liked each other, and now they're friends. Now they love each other, and they also feel like brothers, and it's so great. But there is an element of looking someone in the eye, a lot like dating. Friendship is a lot like dating in your adulthood, and saying, I really think this is worth us spending time together. And it's hard. I joked with someone else because I feel like I just kind of disappear sometimes. I do. And I was like, I don't know if I can talk about friendship because sometimes I just go dark. And my guess is a lot of people in this room end up going dark. And if not, lie to me about it, just like say, yeah, totally. Because it is hard. You get stuck in these spaces of you're working and you're going to the grocery store and you're cooking and you're going through the motions of your life, and you're so tired by the end of it that spending that little extra energy you have to invest in friendships becomes really hard. Except for it's one of the most important things that we can do. We talked a little bit about in the community conversation as well about blue zones. If you don't know about blue zones, they are, I think there's 5 of them, 6 of them, 5 of them, thank you, in the world, and it is where like the average lifespan is 100 years old. And one of the most,
Okay, blue zones are basically pockets of the world. They are called blue zones because when they were discovering these places on the planet, they took a blue marker and circled them. That's the only reason why they're called blue zones. And it was a blue marker. But basically, they're areas of the world where people live to be well over 100, and they're still thriving, and they're still active, and they're still doing everything that they would normally do. And they're like 110, 120, and there's a good portion of the population that is maintaining this health at that age. Thank you. I'm going to pat myself on the back. Part of intelligence and intellectual health is staying curious and being a learner. I don't need to know it all. I got Tiffany for that. Exactly, and that's exactly where we're going. Community is a huge part of that. But community is a large part of that, and the way that they all interact with each other, and what's really cool in a lot of these societies, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do think that I'm right, is the purpose that they feel, the people there feel as they are aging, but they still have some type of purpose and ability to give back to the community and others. Again, the conversation of, well, they're still healthy enough to do that, but there is significant evidence that does show when you have purpose, you do live healthier and longer. And our purpose, our why, is almost always going to come from the relationships that you have with yourself and with other people.
Whew, oh my gosh, I love this. Woo, okay, so there is so much here, and I know that we could all talk for so long. So I want to, normally I ask more questions, but I actually just want to open up the floor now, and I will have, so kind of take that as you will with whatever comes. So I want to open up the floor for anybody to ask questions, and you can ask the question to a particular panelist or to the group. If it is a group question, then let's keep it kind of concise. But yeah, does anybody have a question that they would like to shout out to the group?
I have like 7.
Oh, perfect, great.
We'll keep it to 3. I wanted, first of all, what you said last, you could put on a shirt where you're like, hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I was like, that is a baller line. I take that. Blue zones, one thing, can you move to them and they still have the same effect, or do you have to be bored with them?
Great question. So blue zones are one of my favorite topics, and they're really cool. Basically you could move to them. You have to think you have to definitely, so basically what they've observed is these 5 places on the planet, these people do live longer lives, they're healthier, but they all have very similar characteristics. So those similar characteristics, I actually do think, and there is a panel here in Chattanooga that is trying to make Chattanooga a blue zone. We've gotten a halt. Is Susie still here?
I think she had
She did? Dang it. She's a part of it. but we're still working on getting funding and everything like that for it. I do question whether or not we have too much poverty in Chattanooga, if it would be possible for us to do that. You know, we're only as strong as our weakest members. But with that, so basically, if you were to move there, it's basically, you would have to live very similar lives. So the way that they eat, the way that they commune. So one of the aspects of their community is that they, like one of the blue zone areas in Japan, they have this thing, I think it's beautiful, but they have 5 friends. So it's like their 5 committed friends, best friends for the rest of their lives. And it is all 5 of their jobs to make sure one another is taken care of. And that means like mentally, socially, financially, like all of our pillars, these 5 friends are responsible for one another to make sure that those things are all taken care of. So there's a lot of elements, but you could move to them. You just recognize, like for example, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica is one of them as well. Though I will say, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I do think the West is a bit of a virus, and there's a lot of people that have moved to this area in Costa Rica, and I think they're losing a lot of their health characteristics due to this, and that's because a lot of people are moving there, and they're basically taking this lifestyle and bringing it there.
So you're saying it's more of a cultural piece?
Absolutely.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
I'll keep it quick. Second question, Laura, you're working that boy forever. You've been taking care of kids. I have a 1-year-old. What should I be doing nutrition for my kid?
Your 1-year-old is slightly different than the high school athletes that I have. A little bit smaller, but
just in kids in general. Sorry.
no, just kids in general. What I try to do with them is mostly education based. It's just giving them an idea of what a whole plate looks like, what belongs on a plate, how much belongs on the plate in specific days, and then athletes even more specific. We talk about building the athlete's plate on an easy, a moderate, and a hard training day, and just making sure that they, like I said earlier, create a good relationship with food that lasts for a lifetime.
That makes sense. Like make a goal behind the food. Like, hey, you're eating like this because it serves it in some way, right?
Correct. Yeah. Especially with the athletes.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Yes, Chris?
Questions for Jenna. You were talking about kind of the nature comparison to health, and I think, there's a lot of this sort of like transactional and mechanistic way that we operate now. Do you see some opportunities for, I guess, change in culturally becoming a little more like a supportive ecosystem, and like where do you feel like the business piece of health is there, I guess? I know that's a big question. You were sort of talking about it, and then I wanted you to go on, and then you stopped.
Yeah, I think you did this to me last time.
I'm so sorry. This is so interesting.
Maybe we just need to have a conversation. Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's like so much that we can do. And I think it actually speaks to the intersection of all of these 8 pillars, right? Like, if we are connected to our community, if we are aware of what is happening and action that we can take, small actions as individuals, but also as, within our different various systems, if we're aware of what happens when we are consuming excessively, when we think about the food we're putting into our bodies, right, and even growing our own food and the benefits and the health that comes from that, the relationship that comes from growing food, when we're moving in a way that feels really good and authentic and natural for us, when we're connected to a bigger purpose, and when we are giving ourselves permission to feel fully, right? Like, I think that the answer is really finding harmony in the intersection of all of these pillars of health. And I think a big piece of it too is like recognizing that as individual humans, we can take action, and our individual human actions impact, and there's an exchange with the humans and our natural relatives and allies that are also impacted by that, right? So I think simply even just recognizing like there is reciprocity, there's exchange that's happening between all life, and how do we, intentionally make decisions and choices in how we live and recognize that that exchange is happening in these bigger systems. Those are my initial thoughts.
Any other thoughts or questions? We'll probably have time for like one or two more. Yeah.
On the financial side of things, would you say that people, like, do you ever advise people that a certain amount of their budget should go to certain things surrounding health in its various forms? That's very broad.
No, it's a great question. I think the biggest piece is I never tell anybody what their budget looks like, because at the end of the day, I think, as is the case with everything up here, and I know the why was mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, everything is goals based. So if that's a goal for somebody, then absolutely, it needs to be a big part of it, right? A big part for me in my life is giving. Well, for some people, they don't see that, right? So I think the easiest answer to that is I'm not going to tell anybody what it should or shouldn't look like, but I am going to tell them the truth if what they think they're doing is going to get them what they think they're trying to get. I think that's my job, right? If I'm not going to sugarcoat, yeah, that's fine, you can do that, but that thing you said in 5 years is never going to happen. So one has to give. And so that's really how I'm going to approach that is, at the end of the day, it's not for me to tell you what to do with your money, it's for me to help you get from point A to point B.
You don't tell them, like, if you go gamble, you're drinking money, you're never gonna get to use this money later.
No, that's exactly what I would say. I'm just not going to tell them that they're not allowed to do it.
Let them empower them.
Amazing. Any final thoughts or questions? Awesome. Okay.
Well, I just want to, can we just have a big round of applause for our team? Seriously, this is just, again, it's meant the world to me. And I know that sometimes sitting and listening is, can be, I don't know, we have so many devices and things going on. So really to have your time and attention, that is like truly a gift. So I really, really appreciate all of you for being here and being a part of this community. And if you have any other questions for our panelists or for me, we'll kind of like be here around as we kind of clean up. So please feel free. And also, I really do encourage people to make connections with people, genuinely. Like if you meet somebody here and you're like, hey, oh my gosh, they were so cool, like I would love to have coffee with them, then like reach out and ask to have coffee with them, because I've sat down with so many people and had so many cool conversations that I really, really deeply appreciate and have learned so much about the individual and what they do in like greater parts of our community and things that are happening. That has just like completely opened up my world. So I really just want to leave that as a final thought. But yes, thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Yay.
I signed